I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but recent events have made me realize how much I need to get this off my chest. My name is Ronald, 30M, and I was just 7 years old when my parents abandoned me. It's a day that's etched into my memory like it happened yesterday. I remember it was a warm Sunday afternoon in June. My parents, Lisa, 29F, and Mark, 31M, told me we were going on a special trip to visit my Aunt Maggie, 45F. I was excited because Aunt Maggie always had the best cookies and let me stay up past my bedtime to watch cartoons. We drove for what felt like hours, the car filled with an unusual silence. I didn't think much of it then, but looking back, I realize how tense the atmosphere was. When we finally arrived, it wasn't at Aunt Maggie's house. Instead, we pulled up to a small, unfamiliar house with a well-manicured lawn. An elderly couple stood on the porch, smiling warmly at us. My parents introduced them as my grandparents, Eleanor, 65F, and George, 68M. I was confused because I'd never met them before, but my parents assured me everything was fine. They told me I'd be staying with my grandparents for a while, that they had some important business to take care of. I remember my mom hugging me tightly, tears in her eyes, while my dad patted my head awkwardly. They promised they'd be back soon, but something in their voices made me uneasy. As I watched their car disappear down the street, I had no idea that would be the last time I'd see them for over 2 decades. The first few days at my grandparents' house were a blur of confusion and tears. I kept asking when my parents would return, but my grandparents always changed the subject. They were kind and patient, doing their best to make me feel at home. Gradually, days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The reality that my parents weren't coming back slowly sank in. My grandparents became my world. They enrolled me in the local school, took me to soccer practice, and celebrated every birthday and holiday with me. They never spoke about my parents or why they had left me. I learned not to ask questions, but the curiosity and hurt never really went away. Growing up, I often wondered why my parents had abandoned me. Was I not good enough? Did they not love me? These questions haunted me, creating a void that seemed impossible to fill. But my grandparents were always there, their love unwavering. They taught me to be strong, independent, and to focus on the present rather than dwell on the past. As I got older, I tried to make peace with my situation. I threw myself into my studies and extracurricular activities. I made friends, had my first crush, and experienced all the typical milestones of growing up. But there was always a part of me that felt different, set apart by the absence of my parents. When I turned 18, my grandparents sat me down for a serious talk. They revealed that they had been trying to locate my parents all these years but had no success. They also told me about my younger sister, Mia, who was just 4 when I was left behind. I had vague memories of her, but they were more like fleeting dreams than concrete recollections. Learning about her existence opened up a whole new world of questions and emotions. After high school, I went to college on a scholarship, studying computer science. I excelled in my studies, driven by a desire to prove my worth and make my grandparents proud. During my senior year, I started an internship at a tech startup. It was there that I met Olivia, 25F, a brilliant software engineer who would become my girlfriend and later, my fiancée. Life seemed to be falling into place. I had a successful career, a loving partner, and the unconditional support of my grandparents. But the questions about my past never fully disappeared. They lurked in the background, resurfacing during quiet moments or milestone events when the absence of my parents felt most acute. Then, last week, everything changed. I was working from home when I heard a knock on the door. I opened it to find a young woman standing there, looking nervous and excited. At first, I didn't recognize her, but then she spoke. "Hi, big brother. It's me, Mia." I was stunned. My little sister, now 27 years old, had found me after all these years. She explained that she'd been searching for me for a long time and had finally tracked me down through social media and a private investigator. As we sat in my living room, she began to unfold a story that would shake the foundations of everything I thought I knew about my past. Mia told me about the life she had lived after I was taken away. Our parents, it turned out, had not simply abandoned me. They had been involved in some illegal activities, and when things got too hot, they decided to split up the family to avoid detection. They left me with our grandparents, thinking I'd be safe and well cared for, while they took Mia and went on the run. But life on the run was far from ideal. Mia described years of constant moving, changing identities, and living in fear. Our parents, consumed by paranoia and the stress of their situation, became abusive. They would often leave Mia alone for days, locked in motel rooms or cheap apartments. She suffered neglect and occasional physical abuse, always wondering why they had kept her but not me. As Mia spoke, tears streaming down her face, I felt a mix of emotions I couldn't quite name. Anger at our parents for what they had done to us, relief that my sister was okay, and a deep sadness for the childhood she had endured. But then Mia said something that shocked me to my core. She told me that she had survived all those years because of something I had done before we were separated. She said that one night, when our parents were particularly volatile, I had taught her how to call for help. I had shown her how to dial 911 and told her to call if things ever got really bad. I had no memory of this, but Mia insisted it was true. She went on to explain that when she was 12, during a particularly bad episode of abuse, she remembered what I had taught her. She managed to call 911, and although she was too scared to speak, the police showed up anyway. They saw the signs of abuse and took her into protective custody. Mia spent the next few years in foster care before being adopted by a loving family. As I listened to Mia's story, I felt overwhelmed. I had no recollection of teaching her to call for help, but knowing that I had somehow protected her, even in my absence, filled me with a bittersweet pride. It was a lot to process, and I found myself struggling to reconcile this new information with the narrative I had constructed over the years. Mia and I talked for hours, sharing our experiences and filling in the gaps of our separate lives. We cried, we laughed, and we began the process of rebuilding our relationship as siblings. As the day turned to evening, we made plans to meet again soon, both of us eager to make up for lost time. Now, as I sit here typing this, I'm still trying to make sense of everything. My sister is back in my life, my understanding of my past has been completely upended, and I'm left with more questions than answers. But for the first time in as long as I can remember, I feel a sense of completeness, like a missing piece of myself has finally been found. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm grateful for this chance to reconnect with Mia and to finally start healing from the wounds of our past. If you've read this far, thank you for listening to my story. Any advice on how to navigate this new chapter of my life would be greatly appreciated. Update 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their kind words and advice. Your support has meant more to me than I can express. Mia and I have been meeting regularly, usually once or twice a week. We've been slowly getting to know each other, sharing stories about our lives, and trying to build a relationship. It's been both wonderful and challenging. There are moments when it feels completely natural, like we were never separated, and other times when the weight of our lost years feels overwhelming. One particularly emotional day, Mia brought over some old photos she had managed to keep from our childhood. Among them was a picture of us together on my 7th birthday, just a few months before we were separated. Seeing that image of us, so young and unaware of what was to come, hit me hard. I broke down crying, and Mia held me as we both grieved for the childhood we should have had together. Olivia, my fiancée, has been incredibly supportive throughout this process. She's been patient when I need space to process things and has even started forming a friendship with Mia. Last week, we all had dinner together, and it was heartwarming to see how well they got along. However, not everything has been smooth sailing. About 2 weeks ago, Mia dropped a bombshell on me. She had been in contact with our parents. They had reached out to her a few years ago, after she had been adopted, seeking forgiveness and a chance to reconnect. Mia had been hesitant to tell me this, fearing my reaction. I won't lie, I was angry at first. The idea that our parents, who had caused us so much pain, were now seeking redemption felt like a slap in the face. I struggled with feelings of betrayal, both towards our parents for reaching out to Mia and not me, and towards Mia for keeping this information from me. We had a heated argument about it. I accused Mia of betraying me by keeping in touch with them, while she defended herself, saying she was just trying to find closure. It was our first real fight since reconnecting, and it left both of us shaken. After a few days of cooling off, we met up to talk things through calmly. Mia explained that she had only sporadic contact with our parents and that she had never fully forgiven them for what they did. She shared some of the conversations she'd had with them, including their explanations and apologies for their past actions. While I'm not ready to forgive or forget, hearing about their remorse did provide some context to their actions. It doesn't excuse what they did, but it helps me understand a little better. Mia and I agreed that moving forward, we would be completely honest with each other about anything related to our parents. On a brighter note, I finally introduced Mia to my grandparents. It was an emotional meeting for everyone involved. My grandparents were overjoyed to meet her, showering her with love and apologizing profusely for not being able to find her sooner. Mia was touched by their warmth and expressed regret at not having known them during her childhood. As we navigate this complex family dynamic, I'm learning that healing is not a linear process. There are good days and bad days, moments of joy and moments of pain. But through it all, I'm grateful for the chance to have my sister back in my life and for the unwavering support of my grandparents and Olivia. I'm still processing everything and trying to figure out how to move forward. The possibility of eventually confronting our parents looms on the horizon, but I'm not ready for that yet. For now, I'm focusing on strengthening my relationship with Mia and learning to be a brother again. Thank you all again for your support. I'll keep you updated as things progress. Update 2. Hello everyone. It's been a couple of months since my last update, and I felt it was time to share some recent developments. The biggest news is that Mia and I finally made the decision to meet our parents. It wasn't an easy choice, and we spent weeks debating whether it was the right thing to do. In the end, we agreed that we needed this confrontation for our own closure, regardless of the outcome. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a quiet cafe in a neighboring town. As the day approached, my anxiety skyrocketed. Olivia offered to come with me for support, but I felt this was something Mia and I needed to do on our own. The morning of the meeting, Mia and I met up early. We spent an hour just talking, reaffirming our bond and reminding each other that no matter what happened, We hate each other now. Then, with heavy hearts and clammy hands, we walked into the cafe. I spotted them immediately. Our mother, Lisa, now 52, her hair streaked with gray. Our father, Mark, 54, looked older than his years, his face lined with worry. As we approached their table, I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, hurt, curiosity, and a small, unwelcome flicker of hope. The next 2 hours were intense. We talked, we argued, we cried. Our parents tried to explain their actions, citing fear, desperation, and poor judgment. They expressed deep remorse for the pain they had caused us, especially for the abuse Mia had endured. I listened to their explanations, but found it hard to accept their apologies. The hurt and abandonment I had felt for so many years couldn't be erased by a few tears and apologetic words. Mia, having had more time to process their reappearance in her life, was more receptive, but I could see she was still guarded. As the conversation progressed, I found myself growing increasingly angry. I confronted them about their choices, about how they could have left me behind and subjected Mia to years of abuse and neglect. I told them about the void their absence had left in my life, about the questions and self-doubt I had struggled with for years. Our father broke down at this point, sobbing as he admitted to his failures as a parent. Our mother reached out to touch my hand, but I instinctively pulled away. The gesture, meant to be comforting, felt hollow after so many years of absence. By the end of the meeting, I felt emotionally drained but also somewhat relieved. Confronting our parents hadn't magically healed all the wounds, but it had lanced a festering boil of unresolved feelings. I didn't forgive them, I'm not sure I ever will, but I felt like I could finally start to move on. Mia and I left the cafe together, both of us quiet and lost in our thoughts. We agreed to take some time to process everything before discussing it further. As we parted ways, we hugged tightly, the shared experience having brought us even closer. In the weeks since the meeting, I've been doing a lot of introspection. I've realized that while my parents' actions shaped my past, they don't have to define my future. I'm fortunate to have my grandparents, Olivia, and now Mia in my life, people who love me unconditionally and support me through thick and thin. Mia and I have continued to strengthen our relationship. We've started a tradition of weekly sibling dinners, alternating between our homes. It's during these quiet evenings, sharing meals and stories, that I feel most at peace with the twists and turns my life has taken. As for our parents, Mia has chosen to maintain limited contact with them. I respect her decision, even if I don't share it. For now, I've decided to keep my distance. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have them in my life again, but that day isn't today. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. Your words have been a source of comfort and strength throughout this journey. I'll post another update if there are any significant developments. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's been about 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this chapter of my life. The biggest news is that Olivia and I got married last month. It was a small, intimate ceremony with our closest friends and family. Mia was my best woman, standing beside me as I said my vows. Seeing her there, supporting me on one of the happiest days of my life, made me realize how far we've come in rebuilding our relationship. My grandparents were there too, beaming with pride. In a touching moment during the reception, my grandfather gave a speech where he thanked Olivia for bringing so much joy into my life and welcomed her to our unconventional but loving family. As for our parents, they weren't invited to the wedding. It was a decision Olivia and I made together, and Mia supported us completely. While I've made progress in processing my feelings about them, I'm still not ready to have them be a part of my life's important moments. Mia continues to have sporadic contact with our parents, which I've come to accept. We've had many long conversations about it, and I understand her need for that connection, even if I don't share it. What's most important is that we're honest with each other and respect each other's choices. On a personal level, I've started seeing a counselor to work through some of the lingering issues from my childhood. It's been challenging but incredibly helpful. I'm learning to let go of the anger and hurt, not for our parents' sake, but for my own peace of mind. Olivia and I are talking about starting a family of our own soon. The prospect of becoming a parent myself has brought up a lot of emotions. I'm excited but also a bit scared, worried that I might somehow repeat the mistakes of my own parents. But then I remind myself that I have great role models in my grandparents and that I'm not defined by my parents' actions. Mia has been incredibly supportive of our plans to start a family. She's already calling dibs on being the cool aunt and jokingly warns us that she'll spoil any future nieces or nephews rotten. Her enthusiasm has helped ease some of my anxieties about parenthood. In terms of my career, I recently got a promotion at work. I'm now leading a team of developers on an exciting new project. The added responsibility can be stressful at times, but it's also incredibly rewarding. I can't help but think about how far I've come from that scared, abandoned 7-year-old boy. Looking back on this whole experience, I'm amazed at how much has changed in just over a year. Reconnecting with Mia, confronting our parents, getting married, it's been a whirlwind of emotions and events. There have been difficult moments, but also moments of incredible joy and healing. I've learned that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about the people who stand by you, support you, and love you unconditionally. My grandparents, Olivia, and Mia have shown me what true family means. As for forgiveness, I've come to realize it's a complex and personal journey. I may never fully forgive my parents for what they did, but I'm learning to let go of the anger and resentment. Not for their sake, but for my own peace of mind and for the sake of the family I'm building now. To anyone out there who might be going through something similar, I want you to know that healing is possible. It's not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight, but with time, support, and a lot of self-reflection, you can move forward. This will be my final update on this particular chapter of my life. I want to thank everyone in this community for your support, advice, and kind words throughout this journey. Your encouragement has meant more to me than you could ever know. As I close this chapter, I'm looking forward to the future with hope and excitement. Life may have thrown me some curveballs, but I'm stronger for having faced them. Here's to new beginnings and the family we choose. Thank you all, one last time, for being a part of my story.